following afterwards. My name's Eileen Sierra Brown. I'm from know Jean and everybody back in the Atlanta office. I'm based in Maryland, but we have staff all over. Actually, we have people in Chicago and Utah, um, but and a few of them may be joining the call as well. Um, today's presentation, we're basically going over changes that are only in the electric transmission database at this time. Back on April 15th, we rolled out basically a name change of the transmission database to the transmission and distribution database, as well as the individual profile view of a project, so that individual view of a project where you can see all the project history and all the extra details like contact information for a project, and so those will be discussed more in depth today, as well as the new fields that have been rolled out and the new way of filtering reports. We have a few more joining.
What?
Hi, John. So a lot of these changes that got rolled out on April 15th, it will impact over time, how to filter your reports going forward. And while I joined the C3 group back in 2018, QuickBase itself has rolled out a lot of features since the database got first started in the early 2000s when Gene founded it. And so we really want to take more advantage of what QuickBase offers, and that's what really triggered a lot of these changes. And we do think it'll improve the overall ability to filter your reports, as well as to capture the information that's in each project. So we touched on this briefly, but the electric transmission database is now known as the North American Electric Transmission and Distribution Project Database. Unlike our competitors, we've never prevented distribution level work. So for us, that's anything that's under 69 kV. We never prevented those projects from being in the database, unlike others. However, the predominant focus of the database has always been transmission level projects. And over time, especially in the last 10 years, what we've seen is that the distribution programs were getting longer lead times, and they tend to be much larger in size. So those bigger distribution level programs and projects are more heavily represented in the database overall. It's by no means is it the predominant project level that we cover in this database, but we wanted to update the name to reflect in reality the things that we're tracking. The second change, and it's probably the more dramatic one, is the individual project profile view. So when you drill down to that individual project, and later in the presentation, we'll go over how it's changed, and largely you have access to the exact same fields that you had before, with just a bit of more of a streamlined overall view of the project. But if any fields that you used previously are there to some degree, they're just more hidden in drop-down menus. And so we'll go over that change in the layout. The next changes that we'll discuss are the new fields. So project types, project elements, structure fields, structure types, I apologize, and how each of those are different than what was previously utilized. So the old field, which was the singular project type, it has morphed basically into two different fields. And our old project types, many projects could be a line upgrade, a GenTie, SAG remediation, and all these different drop-down singular options grew over time, but weren't really summarizing what the project was in a really succinct way. So we've taken the old project type and have broken it out to project types and project elements. So we're looking at projects and saying that they could be fundamentally these 5 different, it could be one or all 5 of these project types that could be included in a project profile. So it could be a new line, a line upgrade, a new substation, a new switching station, or it could be a substation switching station upgrade. So the vast majority of all the project will be one or all of these types in a singular field. So it's a multi-select field, and it gives you a little more diversity in identifying what is it within the project itself. And then for project elements, this is kind of drilling down into those details of what's contained within the project. So is it a distribution project? Is it an HVDC project? Is it a line rebuild? Is it a line reconductor? Those, it, the project elements allows us to, it's again a multi-select field, but it allows us to show if one or all of these elements are contained within a project. And we'll go into more. This next slide is just to show you the differences between what could possibly be in the project elements. So this is to clean, instead of seeing multiple check boxes, you'll see a drop-down option where you can select in that field which elements you may be interested in, whether it be, um, uh, transformers, whether it may be underground line, if it's, if you're interested in reconductor, that's also a drop down. This is all those drop downs that you'll see in that multi-select field. And it's an individual column in a report that you'll be able to select those elements in the project. So this slide here is just showing you how it looked in your old view. It would have been across, for project types, it would have been across multiple columns and singular checkboxes. Where now it's all falling within 2 columns. So you'd have your project types column, and then you would have your project elements column, and you can filter your reports in an either or all sort of listing. Same thing with structures. So before we would have a checkbox that would indicate if a structure type was within the project. Now it'll all be contained in with one column instead of multiple checkboxes. And you can filter your reports again to have all or any of a particular structure type. We did rename, I believe it was a structure description. It's now called structures narrative. And so the narrative basically will either be the analyst saying, based on their knowledge, they're assuming monopoles or they're assuming this. And if it isn't what the analyst is estimating or utilizing, it'll be a direct quote from the data source as to what the project contains as far as structures. So that structure narrative, it used to be called structure description. It's just structure narrative because it's either the description that the data source provided us or the narrative from the analyst is how they achieved the total number of structures, estimate or exact, and as far as the estimation level, and then what type of poles are contained within the project, structures within the project. This slide is the same thing as previously, just looking at structures. It would have been across multiple boxes. Now it's in a singular column type, structure types. And we think it'll add ease to filter in and out for your reports. Over time, we do want to sunset the older project type field, and that everything that we're going to review today are changes that will be present in the homepage of the database, but it will not automatically update into your individual reports unless you either give us permission to go into your individual reports and edit them. And you can always email us and ask for that to be done, or you yourself, and that's what we're going to go over, is how you would update your individual reports. Those are the ones that are saved under your user seat. And just let us know. This is slide just where we're holding a series of trainings to go over this. This is the fourth one. The last one will be May 11th. And we are posting these to our YouTube channel, as I stated earlier. And I mentioned you can give us permission to go into your user seat to update your individual reports. These are our email addresses to contact us at. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to make those changes. And in the presentation, so it's a PDF presentation that is posted on our homepage, as well as in the announcement about the changes, we've provided a link to download the PDF. You can find in the appendices, we have provided a comprehensive list of all the project fields that are in the database, along with their definitions, including those new fields. And then also we have a project profile layout, which I'll show you in real time here in a second. Let me I'm going to pull up the database now in your view and show what it looks like. The individual. A second here, my computer internet is being slow. Oh, there we go. Okay, so sometimes if you're trying to log into our website, you can always do it from a link in your email, from any email that QuickBase has sent you. You can also find our client login portal at our website, c3.net. If you go to the client login at the top center, and I'll ask you to sign in. You can also find our YouTube channel is with all of these videos that we discussed. It's here. Just Google the C3 group. We should come up. But once you log into the database, sometimes you'll land on the My Apps portal. It's just a list of every database that you have access to. And again, these changes really only impact the transmission and distribution database. From our homepage, you can find links to the presentations, as well as recordings, short recordings, not just the presentation, of how to, as far as dynamic filtering and replacing filters in your existing reports. And then say if you're coming from the homepage and you want to play around with the new fields, if you go to say like any button on the homepage, you'll find that those new fields come up at the very top here. These are called the dynamic filters for, let me see if I need to blow up. Let's see if we can. You'll see from the search the records, there's this filter icon, which if it's selected will populate filters on the columns of the individual reports. And within that report, each dynamic filter provides a drop down of all the different options, including project types, the new one where you can see line upgrade, new line, new substation, new switching station, other. The other category is really very much an outlier. So like say it's a SAG study and not a SAG remediation, it could be an other, or if it were physical security of something that's more of an outlier that would not very commonly be populated in our database. But most of the time, everybody is either looking for line or substation work. Occasionally, people are looking more for reconductoring. And so like, say if you're wanting just reconductoring, you could go to project elements and you could say, say you could type the word reconduct and it comes up, and then say rebuild, and it will filter down your report into those project elements that could be of interest. And then in the QuickBase, in order to save the report for later, you'll see a green flag here, and at the 3 dot mark, You just click on that and save your report as, reconductor and line rebuild AEP. And if you're ever wondering what filters are being applied, you can always click here on the hyperlink and you can actually see that the ones, even before you hit save, if you click on this hyperlink, you'll see what you've selected. And this report is being filtered to be greater than or equal to the current year and is less than the next 8 years, and is including those active projects as well as all the AEP holding names. Say you come to, say you're trying to update an existing report that you've already saved. That will be located under reports and charts. And you'll find them under the panel here, mine. And like, for example, what it may look like, you may have a report where it'll have the old project type here. In the column, it says will be sunsetting. You can click on it here at the 3 dots on the column and say show more columns. And then in the drop-down list, the new fields will actually float to the top, but you can always, if whatever field you're looking for, you can type the name itself and just add in project types, project elements, apply. And then I do recommend removing the old one, say hide column. You don't have to save your report before this point. You'll see that the same filters, including the sunsetting, is still being applied that says contains line. However, if you ever deselect the toggle here, it will forget any changes you made. So I do recommend hitting saved. It's not required at this point, but it doesn't hurt to save the changes. And then on the upper right-hand side in the little photo edit button, if you hover, it says customize this report. And if you scroll down, you can see all the new columns that have been changed and all the ones that you have access to currently. And I would come here to project type and I would just type an asterisk and you'll get project types, includes the value. And in this case, we'll say new line, and then we'll bump it forward here to the right and say project types includes line upgrade. And you can see the any argument here, as well as if this were like my personal report, this is a great way of knocking out anything that is just a smaller tap project that isn't going very long. So that would, the total line miles being greater than 1 mile, and then the KV being 69 kV or above, knocking out any distribution level work that would be in the project. And just hit save in the upper right corner. And that's fundamentally what you would need to change in anything that's saved under your user seat. Again, if you'd like us to do it for you on your behalf, just email us so we have your permission to go into your user seat and make those changes. It's the same thing if you wanted to do one popular one that, and the reason that we have the line rebuild option and the elements field is many people were looking at wanting to have new line rebuilds, and reconductor. So the difference for us is, line rebuilds, if they're just substituting out structures, to us it's not a line rebuild. If they're just reconductoring, then it wouldn't be a line rebuild. If they are going on an existing right of way and they're replacing both the conductor and the structures, then for us it's truly a line rebuild. And so the new field types, if you hover here, you can see project types includes new line, or project elements includes line rebuild, or project elements includes reconductor. So these two filters are basically filtering down what would be a line upgrade down to these two specific elements. And then throwing in anything that is a new line itself, new right away. Is there any questions? You can see how the multi-select fields appear differently with the bubbles containing those elements. We also, in the individual report view, well, I should say the individual project view and in the report, we have a new field called states or provinces, and basically it's a formula field. It's the same thing as state 1, state 2. The difference is that if the project starts or begins in the same state or province, it'll only list one of those locations. It won't show you both unless it goes into a multi-state or multi-province profile. Okay. So for example, if you click on the individual project view, you'll still have the access to view the project map. Same details of the project. It's just all sort of a snapshot is on the project overview itself in the top half here. Status, mileage, along with the new project fields here. You can also see the one that's being retired. In this particular example, it's predominantly a new line and a new substation, but there is in fact a new switching station that is buried in here that wasn't in the old drop-down option. So it's a little more scientifically accurate as to what is within the project. And then all the different elements contained within the project. The new state field, as we mentioned. And then you still have access. It's just all down here in the drop-down, ownership details, contact information for the utility or the project developer, as well as a project description. This one is a very lengthy one. And again, that was the real point of streamlining the project view is, this is great information about the project, but it is quite lengthy and may not really provide additional information that you're looking for, but you still have access to all of those fields. And then we have here elements or component totals. So a breakout of how many new substations, how many switching stations, number of transformers, number of breakers. We have structure and conductor details under one section now with, the total number of structures, what level it's represented at, and then the type of structure involved. If you ever need to know how we're defining a field, you can always hover over the yellow info buttons here. We also in the appendix have the definition of all fields. And then here it looks like it's a direct quote from the actual data source as to the structure narrative. Number of circuits, conductor type, conductor cable characteristics, whether the line is bundled. Same thing with location information, same fields you had access to previously, just all located under one tab and drilling down, into the specifics of its location. Same project history, as well as we'll link anytime a project is related to a different database. This one happens to be related to both generation and pipelines. And then project news. If for some reason the project has no project news, this section itself won't appear. It will basically be hidden, but you can see any news that has been posted to a project historically. I did want to point out, and this is a QuickBase thing. It is not something, it's not something that we implemented, but in QuickBase, any personal reports you have or subscriptions are going to be saved to your user seat, and you can look those up in a number of ways. We already showed under reports and charts. You can also, in the upper right-hand corner, you can go to My Personal Settings in this app in the drop-down by your name, and you can see anything that is saved under your individual user seat as far as a subscription, as well as any reports or charts that are saved. But if you're looking at a new report or something you've saved previously, and you wanted to create a new email subscription being pushed out to your email, you have to deselect the toggle. And then under More, you'll find New Subscription. This is a QuickBase originally was going to retire the toggle between the old and the new view. This time it does not sound like they're going to be actually retiring it. Another feature that's disabled by this toggle is the favorites. It's the little star that corresponds with the one up here that'll show you your favorite or saved reports. Everything we talked about today can still be achieved in the old view. The only difference is, say, it looks slightly different. So those dynamic filters, instead of being here on the top, will appear on the left-hand side where you can see, project elements, what's contained within the report, and then all the different element drop-downs and structure types. And you can just, if you're interested in steel lattice and steel lattice guide, you can click that and it'll immediately bring your report down to those two types, and you can see it applied here. Instead of the green yellow flag for the dropping to save, you can just hit it here, save, and it will save under your user seat. One thing in the old view that isn't as pretty is instead of it being a hyperlink to see what filters are being applied, it's this yellow sort of long list. And then the new view, it is a little bit neater, a little bit cleaner when you click on the toggle to see the filters being applied. If you're editing a report, before you hit the toggle, make sure you hit save so that it doesn't forget anything that you've changed. Well, that was all that we had to cover today. Are there any questions, concerns? We are very much open to feedback, so please feel free as maybe as you play around more, if you see anything that isn't quite functioning. Jean, did you want to say anything? Okay.
It's clear for me. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.